Everyone goes through their own grief cycle. It takes time for people to recognize the magnitude of what's happening, accept it, and then eventually be in a position to act.
Yeah, and there's an interesting observation that I've had on this that goes kind of deep into psychology, which is that there are two forms of very fundamental denial that people will shift into. One is the, oh, that's nothing, don't worry about it, we don't need to do anything about it. But a lot of people who start there jump immediately to, it's so bad we can't do anything, so we don't need to do anything because it wouldn't have any effect. And
Yeah,
they jump from one extreme position to another incredibly extreme position immediately. Like, you can have a conversation with somebody and it'll start out, it's nothing, we don't have to worry about it, and then you start to lay out all the reasons why it's a real problem that
hmm,
you should worry about, and they will immediately go to, oh my god, you can't do anything, we're doomed, just give up, don't bother, don't worry about it, you can't do anything about it, so why worry? And those are both forms of denial. Like, the true position is, this is bad, let's fix it because we can.
yeah,
And if we can't, then we want to find out in the final hour as we've worked as hard as possible and it just doesn't come together. Like, you don't want to find out that it's impossible because you gave up too early. That is the worst possible position to be in.
absolutely. I think people confuse hope with courage.
Exactly.
Yeah, and what I fail to understand is, as a society, we've lost a lot of faith in ourselves. Right? Imagine
Yeah.
a situation 50 years ago, 70 years ago. The whole world was in turmoil. Second World War. Countries were being rebuilt right after that. The kind of energy that people had to rebuild their countries and rebuild society, uh, the kind of energy that went into that kind of construction is not available today. Is not available at large because people have been lulled to a false sense of security. And now, when you are confronted with a threat, your first instinct is to ignore it, like you said, act as if it's not even there. But once you're really confronted with it, it scares you. You can't handle your fear response.
You've never had a real fear response as a person, like, not you, but I mean, society at large. We've never had a fear response in our lifetimes that was like, not, oh, we're going to lose this baseball game kind of level of fear response, which is like, it's not a real thing. I think that I've been able to handle this well is, I'm a rock climber. I was like a serious swimmer through high school. So I've nearly drowned a number of times, like to the point where I don't even remember all the times where I've had water go into my lungs while I was swimming. I've nearly drowned from like diving like too deep and running out of air and like panicking and not being able to get to the surface. I've nearly died entangled with things while swimming that are underwater. Call my reaction to this disease, I panicked, like immediately panicked.
Hmm.
But the word doesn't fully capture the idea of panic, because when people think of panic, they think of hysteria, which is very much a different thing, where you overload and you start to act irrationally. Panic is your body floods with fear response hormones. You're flooded with cortisol, and your entire brain retools itself to the new problem. So you drop everything and panic. And the panic is the, okay, what do I have to do to fix this problem? It can be anything. If I have to die to solve this problem, I'm willing to do it. Like,
Yeah,
that's the level your brain has to go to. It's a spiritual journey. Panic is a spiritual journey. I don't know if panic is the right word, but hysteria is the right word for what people call panic oftentimes in the public. And what it should be is, your brain is just all out on a problem. And people, as the ego response, are very afraid of that, because you have to give up your ego on like a pretty deep level to be willing to take action that the panic demands. To go into battle, you have to panic. right? To risk your life to save those of your brothers, you have to go through a transformational psychological process that reduces your ego from I will protect myself and act in my interest, which is like the modern day ego, to I am here for my brothers and I will sacrifice for what is more sacred and important than myself. And you have to go through that transformational process as part of the fear response to a disease like this, because it has to be like I will wear a mask, I will wash my feet, I will like take my shoes off and clean them, I will wear gloves, I will social distance. These are all sacrifices you have to make. To make sacrifices, you have to go through a transformational process. The name for that transformational process, when driven by a fear response, is something like panic. I don't know if we have a truly deep modern word that represents this concept, but it's the transformational process. You can also do like courage, which might be based on like honor. Like honor drives courage. You
Hmm.
might that might be a word that you would use. So honor, like the dignity of self and what is loved by oneself, transforms the mind and reduces the ego so the self can step forward and take courageous action of sacrifice. And you can find that for other frames, but those are like two frames of that self transformation process. And many people are completely ill prepared in the modern world for this because they've been ego driven every moment of their entire lives.
Absolutely. I think the arc of technology is such that it makes us more individualistic, and we get more and more disconnected with our sensory inputs. What ends up happening is an inability to integrate your senses. If you were in full awareness of what you're experiencing at all points in time, and if you had the courage to face the truth at all points in time, then there is no other outcome other than integrating your experience. And that would mean what you're saying, which is, what do you do in case of emergency? How do you respond to something that is catastrophic, potentially catastrophic? The likelihood may be debatable, but the risk is catastrophic. Do you integrate your neurons, plug them into yourself? Does the nervous system watch you and learn from it? And are you able to take charge of a situation, and are you able to execute on a plan regardless of what comes your way? In this world that we're currently in, where we're trying to influence the outcome without as much leverage as let's say someone in a large institution, I think there's a lot of there's a swing that people experience from hope to hopelessness when their actions don't materialize in something valuable, or worse, when their actions lead to something negative. I think it's important for us to separate the two. I think it's important for us to recognize that we can will the world into being, we can will movements into existence, and it's at these points that we need to integrate our understanding of the truth as well as project it outwards with our will and make
And
this
that
happen.
projection outwards of the will is exactly the concept of alchemy that we have here, which is alchemy is the magic and philosophy of transforming the nature of the universe, changing the nature of the universe. The idea, like the classic idea of alchemy, which is to take like iron and transform that into gold, is about changing the nature of the universe. It's not like alchemy is what eventually created science, but when science evolved out of alchemy and became like a self-aware process that was systematized with rules and kind of a specific definition of the truth, it lost the deep mythos of alchemy, which was about the like the deeper transformation. And so the vision of like great science that is world transformational is alchemical in its like deepest nature. It's like deeper than science. And we're trying to like rediscover that with this podcast concept and have some fun with the idea. And like it feels like the right place to be at the right time. It's awesome.